Oh, the stock guy is still here. Let's not advertise, please. So why does the overstay hostel trigger such a horrible, visceral, physical reaction to some of us in the chat? Why is that? So let me share this with some of you newcomers, what the overstay is. Several years ago, there was a... Oh, thank you. Will there be some space? Yes. Thank you so much. Kapun ka. Ha, perfect. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you. Oh, look at that. She came with a flower. Yum. So now I've got a coffee so that you guys can, so that I can drink while I tell my story. Maybe, I'm gonna say like early 2000s, I think. I don't know exactly when the overstay originated, but back in the day, in a couple of decades ago, there was a rundown, sort of abandoned building in this area, and a bunch of crackheads decided to go and squat in this rundown abandoned building. So for a couple of years it became a crack den full of crazy crack people. I'm not telling the story well. It became a crack den. And somewhere along the line, people started, like, lost backpackers. You know, you got to be careful when you're in Thailand. Sometimes you can lose yourself a little bit in Thailand. So some backpackers, you know, lost souls stumbled their way into this weird crack den. And it kind of became a hostel. Okay? And so it became this weird, like, crack house hostel hybrid. Bunch of, like, lost souls just there, just living. And a lot of these people, so then it kind of became the crack den, like they sort of cleaned up and kicked all those people out, and they purchased the building and it became a hostel. And this hostel was then named the Overstay because a lot of these people who originally came to this hostel were these lost people who ended up going broke or just overstaying their time in the hostel, and unable to pay their rent. And so they then named the place the Overstay because the original, like, bunch of people that stayed at this hostel ended up being unable to pay for their time, and so they were put to work in the kitchen and became the bartenders, and so that's how the business kind of grew. So this hostel has a very dodgy past. Well, not the hostel, the building has a dodgy past. And so a few years ago, when we discovered this hostel, we went, and you know, it takes a while for the dodgy vibe of the place to get cleaned up. So a couple of years ago, when we first visited this hostel, the walls were cracking, it smelled a bit musty, there were stray cats wandering everywhere and spraying, so it smelled mildly of cat piss and ammonia, and there was, like, discarded weird substances under the beds, and the owners or the bartenders or the so-called staff were a little bit grumpy, and it was a vibe, but like a really strange vibe. And people graffitied on the wall, and people would make their strange murals about the aliens coming down to take our souls. Like, it was a whole thing. And the rooms were just like